Welcome to the Dream Journal. From the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz, the Dream Journal is a weekly show where we explore the power of nighttime dreams through conversations with dream experts and with listeners like you.
In the house behind, the life you find is something understood.
A dream can be meaningful even if you don't know what it means.
Time is keenly found. We are not alone. Water over stone, even if you're bound.
Today's music, created fresh for you by Rick Kleffel, is called The Secrets. You'll hear it fading in just a moment. Yes, there it is. Are you dreaming right now? Quantum physics reveals that what we experience as reality is actually a collectively shared dream. Paul Levy joins the Dream Journal today for an in-depth conversation about the nature of reality. We'll also talk about Wetiko, the collective psychosis that humanity has fallen into, and how our nighttime dreams can help us find a way out of the madness. I am your host, Katherine Bell of Experiential Dreamwork, and welcome to the Dream Journal. Well, I'm excited to welcome Paul Levy today to the show. Hi, Paul.
Hey, hi. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here with you. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, I first met Paul at the Science and Non-Duality Conference in 2019 when he was a keynote speaker, and he just blew my mind. So I am really happy to be able to have him on the show to ask him all my questions and to share with you some of the exciting things that he has learned. Let me introduce Paul. A pioneer in the field of spiritual emergence, Paul Levy is a wounded healer in private practice, assisting others who are also awakening to the dreamlike nature of reality. He has authored 7 books. His upcoming book is on the work of Carl G. Jung. An artist, he has been a Tibetan Buddhist practitioner for over 40 years. And you can find Paul at awakeninthedream.com. And be sure to check out his very popular Substack, Paul Levy's Awaken in the Dream. Okay. So, Paul, what is this all about, a dream? What do you mean that reality is a dream?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not talking in a metaphorical sense that, oh, it's like a dream. No, I'm saying it is a dream. And I began to realize this in 1981. And, without going into the story, there was incredible suffering I was going through based on this intense trauma. And I went so deeply inwards that I had a spontaneous spiritual awakening that almost killed me because it was so, intense. But the way I could describe my experience was that I was beginning to recognize, oh, that this world, this life we're all sharing is a collectively shared dream that all of us are moment by moment dreaming up into materialization.
Mm-hmm.
And then just to kind of give a thumbnail sketch of the story, I was so ecstatic at what I was realizing that it immediately got me in trouble. People thought, oh my God, Paul's having a psychotic break. Within 24 hours, I got hospitalized and diagnosed as, oh, you have this chemical imbalance, you're mentally ill. And, and I should just share it. Now here it is. And I have psychiatrists who are, clients of mine. But
That's a turnaround. Now they're your clients.
yeah, exactly. They pay me money. But the thing, it was so wild because it was an unbelievable, getting into the clutches of psychiatry almost killed me. And I see now that was part of the awakening, but that was a descent into Hades, into the underworld. And so when I got out of the last hospital in 1982, I was in deep trouble. And then night after night, I began having these incredible dreams.
Mm.
At that point, I wasn't fluent in how to work with night dreams, but it was clear I had to learn. And so I really began studying and writing them down and trying to figure out what they meant and how to interpret them. And, it saved my life. For years and years and years, every night I would just be having these unbelievable, mythic, archetypal, very symbolic dreams. Then I began having these lucid dreams. again, these incredible spiritual dreams. And it's just become, a part of my life. But the key thing about my work is I'm trying as best as I'm able to get across to other people and to myself that this is nothing other than a collectively shared dream. And it's just like being in a night dream and you recognize the nature of your circumstance. Oh, I'm dreaming. I'm inside of my mind and you have a lucid dream. What I'm pointing out is that that's available for us in our waking dream.
I mean, it sure feels pretty solid here, but in a dream, even a nighttime dream, everything feels very real. We don't really question the reality of it. But one thing that I'm fascinated by is the collective nature of this waking dream, because I can well believe that I've learned how to see, and so therefore I see what I know. And so that makes a lot of sense to me. But what about the idea of this collective nature of this
Yeah.
reality?
Well, there's a collective, like the way, okay, what is a dream? A dream is a reflection of the mind. It's a projection of the mind. So if we're in a night dream, right? And if we then think of the night dream that we're in, which is nothing other than a reflection of our mind as being, for example, objective and solid and it's separate from us, then being a reflection of the mind, the night dream will instantaneously shapeshift and manifest, confirming our point of view. Now we have evidence. Oh, this universe I'm in is objective, is separate from me, is solid, is real. And then we get even more fixed in that point of view of seeing it that way. And the dream just instantaneously reflects that back, confirming, giving us all the proof and evidence we need that our viewpoint is correct.
Oh,
And
yeah.
describing is we've literally hypnotized ourselves by our own creative genius of how we create our experience of reality, but in a way where we've entranced ourselves, we've put ourselves under a spell. And that's one person. Imagine 8 billion people who are doing that, who are all entranced, thinking that things are a certain way. Well, being a dream, the dream, this universe will then absolutely manifest in a way that confirms their point of view. And it's basically, the whole essence of, I talk about a mind virus called Wetiko, the Native
Yeah.
American called Wetiko, which is at the root of the collective madness and of the evil that we're playing out in our world. And this is Wetiko, that this is the mind virus, that the source of our collective madness is not outside. It's to be found inside of our psyche. That's a no-brainer.
Mm.
And the solution of our collective madness is to be found inside of our psyche. And the idea is when people start awakening to that, oh, we actually have this creative agency in creating our experience of ourselves and of the world, and you connect with other people who are also awakening to that realization, we can get in sync with each other and we can literally dream a different dream, a waking dream. And that's to consciously participate in our own evolutionary process. That's what all of this is about. What's happening in the world, we are dreaming it up to reveal to us our own, that we've forgotten the incredible primacy of consciousness of the psyche in creating our experience.
Wow, Paul, this is amazing. This it makes me think of what we hear so much about these days, having to do with our bubbles, like the people that we are associate with create this kind of reality, and that there's this sense that different groups in this country, in particular, but probably all over the world, don't even see reality the same way.
Right, right. It's like, a certain person, they're in their echo chamber, the bubble.
Yeah, echo chamber.
And then, all of their friends, they also like subscribe to the same point of view. And then anybody else outside, oh, they're just, evil or crazy or wrong or whatever. And if anybody outside that bubble reflects, oh, wow, you guys are under a collective spell, they're demonized because they're experienced as a threat and all of that. And yeah, and then of course this really begs the question, what is this? Like, who are we? What is the nature of this experience we're all sharing?
Right. Oh yeah. No, this is really my mind is. Woo-hoo. So how does this tie in with quantum physics? I mean, I'm an astrophysicist. I've trained
Yeah,
in all this. Tell me about how does this connect with quantum
yeah, yeah,
physics?
yeah. So I'm not a physicist at all, but like in 1981, I began having this, completely overwhelming experience of beginning to realize the dreamlike nature. Then over the years, I began to study quantum physics. And I began to realize, oh my God, they're mapping and articulating and pointing at the very world, that I was inhabiting, this dreamlike universe. And so then I wrote a book about quantum physics where I point out that quantum physics is revealing to us unquestionably, it's proving that we are having a collectively shared dream. But the typical corporately trained academic physicist is not trained or prepared to really take that in. So they don't really get they're openly saying the main point of quantum physics, we don't really understand yet, the central point. And here I am, not a physicist, saying the central point is that it's literally showing us that we are dreaming. And if I could just explain, get more specific,
Yeah.
before quantum physics came into the world, pre-quantum physics, the Newtonian classical physics conceived of the world as being objective and separate from us. And we were just passive observers trying to understand the world. Then quantum physics, it emerged into the world, into our minds about 100 years ago, and it empirically proved, no, the idea of an objective world is just that, an idea with no correlate in reality. It's just a nonsensical idea, in that the act of observing this universe is influencing the universe
Right.
that we're observing. That's pointing at that the act of observation is creative. Now, I should point out that's a description of a dream. In other words, quantum physics is saying if you change the way you're perceiving the universe, and your perception of the universe is part of the universe, it's not separate from the universe, that if you change the way you perceive the universe has no choice but to instantaneously reflect your change in perspective, because nothing objective out there. So and I can, the whole book, I go down this rabbit hole really showing that quantum physics has stumbled upon the dreamlike nature.
And what's the name of this book? I saw it on your webpage.
It's the quantum revelation, in that it's pointing out that quantum physics is a living revelation,
Yeah.
literally revealing to us the dreamlike nature. If I could just say one more thing, in Tibetan Buddhism, they talk about these hidden treasures that are hidden and coded in the multidimensional fabric of the universe. And a lot of the practices, they're like these hidden treasures. They're discovered at exactly the right moment in time, when the community gets a little stale or one-sided or asleep. All of a sudden, this hidden treasure will, in like this magical way, will just become discovered, that will help the community, the practitioners, to get back connected with themselves. So it's very much like a dream, like the unconscious is compensatory. When we get one-sided, the unconscious sends us a dream to get us back in balance. These hidden treasures are exactly like symbols in a dream. When we as a species get off balance, we will literally dream up a hidden treasure in the universe in whatever form. And I'm pointing out that quantum physics is a modern day analog to one of these hidden treasures. It's actually helping us to reconnect with our nature.
So maybe somehow these really big sociopolitical things happening in the world are some kind of a correction. And I always like to, I call the dream work I do the treasure hunt. So here's the treasure. We're looking for the treasure. Where is the treasure in these times? And how is this helping us wake up is the way I start to look at this.
That's so right on. I again point out that what's happening in the world, in the greater body politic, with all the horrors and nightmares and war in Ukraine and Middle East, and on and on and on, it's a revelation. It is literally revealing to us, because our perception of what's happening and our reaction, oh, I'm triggered, whatever, that's all part of one quantum system. Because in a quantum world, and this universe is quantum on every scale, not just a micro scale, but even on the macro scale, that in a quantum world, there's no separate selves interacting. So we aren't a separate self interacting via our perceptions and seeing the world out there, which is separate. No, our perceiving the world, and the world that we're perceiving, is part of one whole, interconnected, seamlessly one quantum system. And so what's happening in the world is a revelation of what's happening inside of us. And think about it. In a dream, what's happening in the outer dream world is reflecting what's happening in your psyche, because the outer dream is a reflection of the inner process. This is what Christ was talking about in the apocryphal text, when he says, when you recognize the inner as the outer, that's when you enter the kingdom. That's when you see the dreamlike nature, and that's when you connect with your creative agency and power to actually change the dream. That's what all of this is about.
So yeah, let's talk about changing the dream, because like I can, you say that there's a way that we can like kind of collectively create this. And I often say that the dream work I do, the inner work I do, is like the most important political activism of my life. And what you're saying is true. But I also, what comes in for me is like, what about denial? And like people who go into this, oh, it's all fine. Like where you get into this place of like denying reality. Well, what's reality? You know? So, but there's a way that people sometimes just are like blocking out the things. And how is that different from actually like looking to change what's happening? I don't know if
Yeah,
I'm
well,
making
I
sense.
mean, if you're going to change anything, the only way to change it is you first have to embrace it and accept it. And,
Oh, Paul,
and
not
yeah,
that.
people who are in denial, I mean, it's a very interesting process, and I've written extensively about this
Yeah,
because
yeah.
not just you're in denial, but
Mhm.
then you have to get into denial that you're in denial, or else you'll snap out of the denial. So it's a self-replicating and self-reinforcing feedback loop. And yeah, and then you see this mind virus, a way of describing the mind virus, it's a form of blindness.
Okay.
But it's a weird form of blindness that doesn't know it's blind and thinks it's actually sighted. And not only that, it thinks it's more sighted than people who actually see, you know.
Oh,
And
I
so
see.
we are in the middle of a collective psychosis. This is what Jung was warning about as the greatest danger facing humanity, you know, and it's a very dangerous situation. But because it's like in the alchemical sort of this vessel of the human psyche of each one of us, there's increased pressure. We're all feeling it,
Mhm.
it's in the air, but there's a way of holding that instead of just dissociating or going numb or getting into denial. There's a way of holding that creative tension of the opposites in which something creative emerges. So
Holding the tension of the opposite. So like embracing even the difficult things.
oh, completely.
Okay.
Completely,
Yeah.
not splitting, not dissociating. Jung again and again was saying the sickness of our age is the sickness of disassociation. And think about disassociation. It's like when you split, and split means to dissociate, it also means to leave. And so the idea being is to more and more, any spiritual practice has to do with being present with what's happening in the moment, being in your body. And I know this really well because it involves incredible potential pain and re-experiencing the trauma, but in a way where you actually experience it so that instead of it just self-replicating in the repetition, the compulsion to repeat, it actually becomes freed. And then that energy that was compulsively feeding the trauma becomes accessible for love, for compassion, for being creative. Being creative is the real medicine for mind virus, for what's ailing our species.
So letting in the difficult feelings, the difficult associations, because I'm inclined to kind of not even look at the news, and yet I feel like I'm cutting myself off there. And I do want to say that there is a place for dissociation when we're really stuck, like when we're really in an emergency, like survival. Then we need to not feel our feelings and carry on. And so maybe that's part of the trick of what's going on right now. Is everything feels like a crisis. And so we never get to stop and feel what's really true, what's happening.
Right. And the thing, what I point out again and again, because we're, from the dreaming point of view, and just remember the language of dreams are symbolic. They speak via symbols. So what I'm saying is that in the world, like everything is symbolic, everything like a dream. I mean, the word in Buddhism for enlightenment, one of the words, Mahamudra, it translates as the great attitude or the great symbol, that this universe is symbolizing itself. But when you see that, it can connect you back with your nature. And I point out again and again, the greatest protection against the evil or the collective madness that's playing out is becoming familiar with your nature. And what do I mean by that? What is our nature? Our nature, by its nature, is creative. So when you have the realization of your nature, you embody and express yourself creatively. And the more you do that, the more deeply you have realization of your nature in a positive feedback loop that creates light in a world of darkness.
So it's not just scrolling on your phone. That's not there's nothing creative about that. But doing something creative is a way through what you're saying to deal with the Wetiko, with the
But
illusion.
here's the thing, because that energy, the energy of Wetiko, it's an archetypal energy. It's not a
Yeah.
personal energy. It's, think about it like this higher dimensional energy. And this higher dimensional energy can literally take over a person, and they have no idea. But the idea is, if we then unconsciously have relationship to that higher dimensional energy, invariably we are going to express it in a destructive way. But when you add consciousness to that daimonic energy, that transpersonal archetypal higher dimensional energy, you're able to channel it constructively, creatively, in a way that serves you and serves the world.
Mm,
That's what we're here to do.
mm.
And when I mean creativity, I don't mean painting or drawing. Yeah, that's creative and that's great. Anything and everything we do can be creative.
Okay. Okay. And then the word just collectiveness just kind of came back into my head. Like, one of the things that I've been called to do over the years is to get people together, and like the IASD conferences that I help organize, and dreams, circles music circles here, and dream circles. Like, there's like something for me that's called to me about getting people together as as groups. And I'd like to think that we're kind of magnifying that creativity. That as a group, we get to
Right. No,
participate collectively in this creativity.
yeah, that's totally right on, because in the same way that the mind virus is contagious, just like
Yeah.
the alleged COVID virus was contagious, the mind virus is contagious. But the converse is also true. When you bring people together, like you were saying, in these dream circles, or in sort of ceremonial ways,
Yeah.
in a sacred intention, that becomes contagious. You actually, when somebody's embodying being, awake to whatever degree they are, and being creative and being loving, that rubs off, that impacts, that awakens that same energy in each one of us. And that's why in Tibetan Buddhism, they talk about the three jewels: the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, the teacher, teaching, and the community. And the Sangha, the community, a lot of teachers are saying that's the most important of the jewel in this time, because we're so atomized and isolated and polarized. And coming together with other people, and you can get in sync with them and in phase with them and support and help each other, and you can conspire to co-inspire each other, which is
Right.
conspiracy theory. And you can literally discover that you can dream yourself awake, that we can dream ourselves awake by the way we hang out and dream each other up. That's that we all have this treasure, like you were saying with your work, finding the treasure. We all have this superhero power, this treasure. It exists inside of our unconscious. And my whole work, and I'm doing it, and I'm part of my work, I'm doing this my own self, is trying to uncover that treasure, so that more and more I could just embody it, and other people can embody it. And that's really what's going to be healing the world.
And I love that you have this aspect of creativity, because we don't want to just get together and complain or blame or something like that. I don't think that's going to move the needle on away from the Wetiko toward a more healthful society. And that if we can get together and do something creative, then maybe that's our way forward.
Yeah, and the being creative, I just want to say, it's not even like, oh, am creative. Like, for example, when I write my books, like, after I'll write something, I'll read it, like, maybe later that night, and I'll be like, wow, this is really good. Who wrote this?
Yes.
And I just, become an instrument. And for me, I get these downloads, and I can differentiate between the energy of the download compared to just my, sort of like normal kind of neurotic monkey mind. Those are two different signatures. When I get the downloads, all of a sudden I'm in the role of, I'm just the employee. This is it's the boss, and I'm just in service. And then, as best as I'm able, I become an instrument to have whatever that higher dimensional wisdom come through.
I love that. So, Paul, we still have a few minutes before the break, and I want to start the conversation about Carl Jung. I know it's a book that you're working on right now, getting ready to publish. And I wonder if you could say a little bit about what Carl Jung had to say, because like 100 years ago, he had a lot to say about society and what was coming.
Yeah, no, totally. And so he actually openly says the greatest discovery of modern times in the field of psychology was what he called the reality of the psyche. And hardly anyone's even heard about that, and let alone even understand what it means. And he was talking about, and he uses this word, the dreamlike nature of reality, that consciousness that is primary in creating our experience of the world and of ourselves. And so in essence, that's what my whole book is about, because I've been studying him. He really saved my life, because after the last mental hospital in 82, I knew I was having an awakening. Everybody was telling me I was mentally ill. And then I found the work of Jung, and he gave me a context to understand these out of the ordinary experiences I, was having. And so, yeah, I consider him one of the all-time, this genius, this epochal genius. And I keep, because I know, so I've been studying him so profoundly for 45 years. So I know what he would say, because he was pointing out exactly what's happening now, the shadow, and how if you don't recognize it, it becomes fate that you act it out, the danger of collective psychosis, and the importance of getting into intimate relationship, the unconscious with consciousness, and have it be back and forth, and have it be like an intimate relationship, instead of having them just be split and having nothing to do with each other.
Wow. Okay. This is great. We're going to talk more about Carl Jung and about how we can use our dreams to help us wake up in this dream. Our guest today is Paul Levy, and his webpage is awakeninthedream.com. He also has an amazing Substack, which is Paul Levy's Awaken in the Dream, which I encourage you to go check out for more information. And so we are going to talk more about Carl Jung after the break, and we'll probably get more into Wetiko, which I think is a really fascinating concept. And of course, we'll be open to your calls. The Dream Journal is broadcast live from KSQD studios in Santa Cruz and co-broadcast live in San Jose by KCXU. We are podcast everywhere on the Monday after the show. Full-length videos of the conversations can be found on Spotify and also on my YouTube page at Experiential Dreamwork. We'll be right back. This is the Dream Journal, and I am Katherine Bell of Experiential Dreamwork. Thanks so much for your generous ratings and reviews for the pod, and for sharing episodes on your social media. To help us spread interest in dreaming, follow us by looking for hashtag the Dream Journal and at Experiential Dreamwork on your favorite social media. But most importantly, consider telling your friends about the show. You might just find your next dream sharing buddy. Today's guest is Paul Levy at Awaken in the Dream, and we are talking about the nature of reality and how reality is a dream, a collectively shared dream. And we have now Max, who wants to ask a question. So while we're waiting for call-ins, we've got Max here. Let me bring this a little closer to you.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
I really don't have a question. I really liked what you're saying, though, about the collective nature of reality.
Mhm.
It seems to me to ring true. In 1981, when you were going through your psychotic stuff there, I also was changing countries. I was living in to a very different country. I found that the view of reality was very different there. The view of like what plenty to live on was the view of like political power, the view of everything was different. It really affected my psyche and how I view this country. I just wanted to say you really hit the nail on that stuff.
Thank you.
I mean, that is very interesting. The different countries do have very different ethos and
Yeah, well, it's like in Tibet, for example, because I'm, I've been a long time Tibetan Buddhist practitioner. There's every practitioner for the very main fundamental first practice is called pure perception. And every practitioner does it every day, throughout the day, throughout their life. And in essence, pure perception is you recognize this as a dream, and you just go about seeing it in that way. And imagine in Tibet, that's the agreed upon collective agreement, that everybody is seeing the dreamlike nature. so that creates a field for the universe to manifest in a more dreamlike way. Just like when you're open to that synchronicities or a possibility, all of a sudden they begin to happen more because the way this world is manifesting is not separate from the way that we're telling ourselves the story about it.
Mhm.
So I appreciate that. Like, yeah, in our culture, which is based on scientific materialism, then all of a sudden, a lot of the magic in this world is just gone.
There's no place for it. Hmm.
Yeah, there's no place for it. But when you live in a culture or a country or even a community, even a friend, and you have like, sort of this non-local field that gets conjured up between you and your friend that includes, oh, there's incredible expansiveness and potentiality for magic. Well, then guess what? Your experience, your world is going to be more magical.
Mm. There's something about this, Paul, that I'm really struck by, which is that when I've always heard this thing, oh, life is but a dream. There's something,
Right.
but then sometimes that sounds like that it doesn't matter, and I can do whatever I want to because it's just a dream,
Oh,
or it's only about me because it's my dream. And so you're bringing a much broader perspective and much more important.
yeah.
Like it does
The
matter.
thing is, getting back to this mind virus, the Wetiko mind virus, I was saying it's a form of blindness. Another way of describing the fundamental essence of it is that it's a misidentification of who we think we are. When we identify ourselves as being a separate self, like I'm over here, I exist separate from you, you're an other. As soon as there's an other, there's fear. Fear is the superfood for Wetiko. But if I actually see through the illusion that I don't exist separately, but actually all of us are interconnected and interdependent, out of that realization, the expression of that is compassion, is love. And then you begin to realize, oh, wow, we're all body. We're all like sort of cells in a greater organism. We're all like not separate from each other. So if I help you, I get as much benefit because you're not separate from me. So that's the whole new paradigm that, I and many of us are trying to bring into the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's really fascinating, and that it doesn't, that allows like hope, and that our mental state is going to contribute to reality.
And the thing about, that brings in hope, I mean, I want to bring in quantum physics, because quantum physics, when you really understand what quantum physics is showing us, it's unbelievably optimistic and hopeful in the sense that, there's all this evidence that, oh my God, things in the world are just horrible and nightmarish, and we're fated to destroy each other and all that. And, it's very seductive and convincing to get fixed in that point of view. But then quantum physics comes along and they try to understand what are the building blocks, what is the microstructure of this world. And as they went more and more down in scale, they didn't find anything having to do with matter. They found mind, they found consciousness. So they came up with this idea of the elementary particles, which exist in a state of every and any possible state they ever could exist in each and every moment until they're observed. And when we observe at that moment of observation, the infinitude of possibilities collapses and actualizes into one particular experience. And then the next moment, the same thing. Well, what that means is profound, because what that means is the fact that our species could potentially awaken, that enough of us could sufficiently awaken so that we connect with each other and we avert creating these incredible catastrophes that are destroying the biosphere. Quantum physics is saying that's completely within the realm of the possible. And so, and if you're not envisioning that, if you're like caught in, oh, no, things are really bad and we're destroying ourselves, then you're a part of the problem. But quantum physics is saying, no, there's every possibility in the world that we can actually wake up and, and avert destroying ourselves.
I'm in favor of that. So we actually have a couple of callers. So we have at the moment, we have Kelly in Santa Cruz. Let's start with Kelly, and Jenny, I'll get to you in just a moment. We have two callers on the line, so go ahead and put them through, Rick.
Hello?
Oh, hello. Is this Kelly?
Hi. Yes. I wanted to ask a question about I guess it's about kind of about Tibet and Buddhism, but it has to do with the concept of retrocausality. And there's a fellow Russian physicist who postulates that we get a future state of what's going to happen, feed forward messages in our dreams at night, and that's how we actually learn to subconsciously navigate the next day to avoid, as a survival mechanism. I wondered what he had thought about that in relation to dreams.
Yeah, no, totally.
Retrocausality.
Yeah, no, I've written about retrocausality where, we tend to think that, oh, the past is causing the present to manifest the way it is. But from the retrocausal point of view, well, the future, it's as if the future is extending backwards in time and having an effect on the present moment also. So the present moment in quantum physics, it's conceived of the place like the handshake between the past and the future. That's where they meet. And one major quantum physicist even very seriously asked the question, why can't we remember the future in the same way we remember the past? And so one very simple way of thinking about it, there are all these potential timelines of the way the future can manifest. But when and think about the one where we become really enlightened or whole or become who we are, to the extent that we envision that timeline, that potential, that then in a way makes it more likely and attracts that potential future. So
Until you make it, huh?
go into the present moment. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I wanted to say, Kelly, I love this question, and I have a question for you. But I just want to share that I've never seemed to have very many what I think of as precognitive dreams. It doesn't seem very common for me, but a little while ago, 2 weeks ago, I had a really intense nightmare, which didn't make any sense at the time. But then a week later, something happened, and I'm like, oh my God, that makes sense. Now I get it. And so maybe there was some way of that with
If I
preparing.
get to say one thing, there's a famous, Jung had these visions, these waking visions that went on and on and on, and they happened multiple times, where all the rivers in where he lived in Europe were overflowing with blood and dead bodies. And this was like a recurring vision that kept on having. And he really thought, oh my God, do I have a latent psychosis? And then the First World War broke out, and he realized, oh yeah, he was, presciently sort of precognitive happening because the psyche is non-local. It's not bound by third dimensional space or time.
Right.
I have a follow-up question.
Yeah, Kelly,
if
go
I
ahead.
can. In the practice of Dzogchen, the maintaining lucidity is the primary point of the practice, and so that if you can maintain lucidity, I assume that you'll avoid the memory wipe that happens after you die and enter the bardo. Is that something you know anything about? Is that retrocausality?
Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily retrocausality, but I just actually all week was in a retreat with a Dzogchen master teaching about Dzogchen. That's the practice I do. And the idea being is that, you really, it's like when you say you maintain lucidity, but it doesn't involve any effort, because as long as you're making an effort, that effort itself is the obscuration to lucidity. That's why in the practice, they say when you have realization in Dzogchen, it cures the disease of effort. So you just become familiar with your nature, which is always available. It's always pure, and it's always with you, but we just don't notice it.
The disease of effort. Oh man.
Word for Tibet in meditation, the word means becoming familiar. That's what the etymology of the meditate is in Tibetan. And so you get introduced to your nature, which is you're already whole, you're already healed, you're already awake, and you just become more and more familiar with that, to the point where you're able to stabilize that and just rest and abide in as that. That, in essence, is the practice. And then when you die, then you're very, easily able to recognize your nature and not get caught by all the projections of your mind in the bardo. And then, that becomes an incredible opportunity to deepen your realization.
Wow, this is amazing.
Is that-
Max has something he'd like to add. Just a second, Kelly. I'll come back in a sec.
Yeah, my question was about lucidity. What's your view on lucidity? Because I have had many discussions with a lot of people about what they view lucidity as. I think what you're talking about, lucidity as an awareness, is more on the mark with what I believe it is than what people talk about with influencing your dreams and stuff like that. People who say, like, I would not dream of doing that. it's more like a realization that you are there, that you are one person in the dream and awake.
Yeah. Well, for me,
Uh,
I use the word like to have this lucidity is just to recognize the nature of your circumstance. Say you're in a night dream, and in an ordinary night dream, you're entranced by the forms of the dream, thinking it's real and separate and other than you. You become conditioned by the forms, you react to them. But then when you have lucidity, you recognize, oh, I'm not out of my mind. I'm inside my mind. I am literally inside my psyche. Everything is my own energy. And the way that the whole way you're in relationship to the forms, instead of reacting to them and being conditioned by them, changes. And you're not controlling the form. Why in the world would you control the dream? But you're in control of yourself. That's the key thing.
That's the disease of effort, to wanting to control things.
Yeah.
I love that phrase. Kelly, do you have any last things to say? What's up for you now, Kelly?
The question was about the wiping out of memory between lives, and which is one of the big obstacles of the Bardo, which people are, what do they call it? Enlightenment with residue.
Enlightenment-less residue? What's that?
Well, the thing,
No,
actually, this
enlightenment
brings
with
up.
residue. It means you're not completely enlightened, but you're kind of halfway there.
Oh, with residue.
Oh, this brings up like one of my lamas who was an incarnate lama. They found him when he was like His Holiness Dalai Lama. This lama was the in his last life was the oracle, one of the major oracles of Tibet. And then he met his parents in his last life that were his parents for this life, and he offered them a gift. Then he died and incarnated as their child and was recognized when he was a little baby as an incarnation of this great oracle of Tibet. And, he said to me one day, he goes, yeah, the idea of like what I did in reincarnation, it's like you go to sleep at night and you have a series of dreams. And in one dream, you're a 69-year-old man, and the next dream, you're a 12-year-old girl. And he goes, imagine if throughout all those dreams, you kept the continuity of your awareness throughout all those dreams. He goes, that's what happens when you awaken, and when you die in one life, the normal person, they just fall asleep, and their next incarnation is a function. They get blown by the winds of karma. But when you wake up, just like you keep your continuity of awareness between the different dreams you have in one given night, when you're in all these different identities in each dream, he says it's the same thing. When you die and you awaken to your nature, you're able to be aware, to have your awareness and to be able to consciously choose to incarnate back in this world, like His Holiness Dalai Lama as a bodhisattva who's incarnated to help all of us.
Right. Thank you. Kelly, thank you for these great questions. I really appreciate you calling into the show.
Okay, thank you.
All right, take care. And we have another caller, Jenny from Santa Cruz. You there, Jenny?
Yes, hi.
Hi, Jenny. Thanks for calling.
I've appreciated this discussion, but I just have a very small dream snippet that just caught me off guard, really, about 2 mornings ago. The sort of like looking for a bathroom, looking for a toilet. Is it behind this door? And a strange building with all kinds of, it's all these toilets, but all people are already in them. But then there's this big pile of money on the ground, and I pick up this pile of money and put it in my duffel bag, and I'm looking for a toilet to go sit in to look at this money. And I've just never, I've had a lot of looking for toilets, but somehow this pile of money was just really a surprise. So I wondered what you might think.
Right. Well, it brings up, I'll just associate to your dream. Finding money is one of the symbols in my dreams that makes me recognize I'm dreaming. And so, and there are times I'll be like, there'll be like these packets of $100 bills and they're gift wrap, and I'll be finding them all over the place. And so for me, it's an expression of the incredible abundance of the universe.
The treasure.
And somehow it activates my recognizing that I'm dreaming. But one dream I found all this money, and there was like millions of dollars, and I was picking it up and putting it in my duffel bag. And then I was recognizing I was dreaming, but I was caught because I didn't want it to be a dream. So, and that really showed me my attachment. So, it's really creative and interesting how we interpret, the different symbols in the dreams. And the way I interpret one symbol, that might work for me, but maybe it might not work for you. So the important thing, I mean, it's helpful to share with other people and all trip out and reflect and associate together, but also it's important for each dreamer to do their own work on what is the meaning of the symbols.
Absolutely. Does that, anything in there resonate with you, Jenny?
Well, the sense of sort of wild natural abundance, but the connection to looking for toilets just was very surprising to me. Like
Toilets are like a perennial dream theme. There's so many toilets and so many dreams. It's like, I don't know. There could be many different things. It's one of those like multiply dense symbols like the ocean or a horse, because there's so many ways of looking at toilets. So it'll depend to some degree on what it means to you.
Well, the thing that comes to mind talking to you now is a sense of the money is sort of something coming in, but the toilet is things going out. So
There you
like
go.
a
That's
cycle
great.
of life
See?
is going on in a way.
Perfect. One of the things that came to me, Jenny, was about this creativity is expression.
Yeah.
Going to the toilet is kind of expressing yourself.
And I just want to point, and actually, what you just did about, oh yeah, money it's coming in, it's going,
And
when you were sharing that, I was realizing, oh wow, you're unconscious. Now you're actually like beginning to dream right now, in the sense that, see, when we have a dream and we begin to hold it and look at it from all different ways, we start to dream instead of getting fixed in a viewpoint and feeling stuck.
Yes.
Paul, and Jenny, this is kind of tying into me what we were talking about, the disease of effort, which I'm never going to forget that. And but because there's something about you relieve yourself. When I go to the toilet, it's an urgency. It's a natural urgency. There's no effort. The only thing is I've got to find a place to do it. And so it's like that's the natural effort. It's just like this is what is happening. And so creativity maybe could be like that. It's just this is what happened. Like this radio show, it just kind of came out of me. I was like, here we go. I'm just going to do it. And
I wanted to say about the creativity, because I can't say enough about the importance of each and every one of us being creative.
Yeah.
Jung says, and I agree with him, that the greatest poison in the human psyche is unexpressed creativity, And so, and it doesn't make a difference, even the way we wash dishes can be creative. It's not like, oh, you have to do painting or drawing or, dance or this or that. No, the way we interpret, see, what quantum physics discovered is that the way we interpret reality, that this meaning we place on it, is a creative act that actually has an effect on our experience.
Jenny, we got to say goodbye. I'm so glad you called
Thank
in
you so
and
much.
shared this
Thank
collective
you.
dream.
Bye.
Bye, Jenny. Paul, this has been an amazing conversation. We just have like a few minutes left of the show here, and I wonder if there's anything what else do you want to add in here?
So the thing is, I've written 3 books about this mind virus, the Wetiko mind virus, and it's the most important thing in the world to understand, because if we don't understand it, there's not going to be a world. In the Castaneda books, Don Juan, Carlos's teacher, says this is the topic of topics. Now, Wetiko, being a mind virus, it's at the root of the collective madness of all the evil playing out, but it's a dreamed up phenomena. We are all participating in unconsciously conjuring up this psychic epidemic, this collective psychosis. What that means is that we can undream Wetiko, but we don't know that we each and every one of us have this superhero power. Each and every one of us have this genius, this creative genius, but to the extent we're not aware of it, our creative genius gets turned against us in a way that's killing us. Okay. So what I'm trying to get across, is that, we already have everything we need, but it's like our species has fallen under a spell and we're in a fairy tale. And then the problematic situation is, okay, when somebody wakes up sufficiently from the spell, how do you help other people wake up from the spell? And it's very tricky because, we were talking about, people get polarized or fixed in their bubble chamber. If you try to, and say if they're really under the propaganda or mind control, if you try to reflect that back, that's not going to work. Good luck with that, right? So it's really like forcing us, okay, how do we be in the world and embody ourselves express our light in a world that's dangerous to do so in a way that's actually going to help people.
Yeah, and that's what you're saying, creativity. That's where the creativity comes in, right?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
when you hang out with creative people, it's contagious. All of a sudden, it activates your own creativity, and then there becomes like a field. And when you have a community like that, and it's not based on power or ego or hierarchy, but it's just based on, no, what about if we prioritize helping each other and stepping out of the separate self and having the realization that we're all interconnected, that then, has an incredible power to transform the world. I mean, really.
Paul Levy, thank you so much. This has been an amazing conversation. Really enjoy this, really feel nourished by this. Webpage is Awaken in the Dream, and he's got a whole series of books, and then coming out next spring, a new one on Carl Jung. Maybe I'll have you come back then. We'll see when you're on tour for that.
Thank you so much, really. Thank you.
Sorry?
Yeah, I just want to thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. Wonderful. Thanks so much, Paul. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. The Dream Journal is produced at the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz. We are live every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific at ksqd.org. I am Katherine Bell, and you can contact me at experientialdreamwork.com or at Katherine@KSQD, Katherine with a K. Keep up with the shows on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and especially on YouTube by following at Experiential Dreamwork and hashtag The Dream Journal. I'd like to thank Rick Kleffel, engineer and music creator, audio editing by Suki Westling, phones by Eric Nelson. Intro and outro pieces are both by Mood Science. And tomorrow morning, when you wake up, take a minute to write down your dream and bring it to the next Dream Journal.